You're listening to Partynerdz Weekly.
Welcome to the party! Partynerdz, we are back! Yes, y'all. We back. We got some of the crew in the house tonight. We got a great topic to talk about, as usual. But let's get these introductions out the way. I'm Jervis, here at the helm. Me. If y'all haven't yet, check out my new movie called Stealing the Survivor on all platforms.
Straight up. My man out here getting it in.
We grinding out here, man. You know, partners, we all do something extra on the side. You know what I mean? All something extra. We got my man Grandmaster Facts in the house. James, what's going on?
What's going on, brother? Here to bust it down with our weekly topics of comic book fandom, man. There's a whole lot of shit going down.
Yeah, and if you haven't, check out James' project on the side that he do. Not even on the side, it's his project that he do. Nothing but the facts, the Grandmaster Facts.
Yep, Facts Confidential, my weekly IG live sessions. I basically mash it up with a lot of independent creators and everything as far as their comic books, bringing their comic book creations to life. Yeah, and we got my man, Mr. What It Do himself, AJ, out of COVID hiding. He's making an appearance.
Yo, what it do, y'all? Yo, listen, I'm just here being safe, representing Evangelion. You know what I do. And, you know, during the Gamerdelphia thing every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, join on.
Yeah, check out Gamerdelphia, another Partynerdz exhibit here.
Yes,
we doing
indeed.
our thing. And we got my man Jorge on the boards.
What up, man?
Yeah.
Am I glitching out or what?
Jorge,
Yeah.
fuck.
You look like a motherboard, bro.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out this green screen chroma key shit. So I'll get it eventually. So, you know.
Let's make it happen. So, James, what are we talking about tonight, man? What do we got going on?
All right.
Here?
Well, the big news, one of the biggest topics that came out of this week was pretty much it wasn't even like it just happened. Pretty much after DC fandom, we found out that they were going to come into the development of none other than Virgil Hawkins' Static Shock. Now,
yes,
the big news that came out of this week is that not only is Reginald Hudlin, who's basically executive produced and crafted Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, a whole slew of other House Party, Boomerang, you know what I'm saying? But not only him, but none other than Killmonger himself, Michael B. Jordan, is going to put his producing dollars to back this project as well. So it kind of puts into perspective this. A lot of people may have forgotten because of the gap in the space of time that basically, like, we've seen Static Shock, whether it's been from the comic books or whether it's been from the animated series that came out, because he came out in 1993. Virgil Hawkins, the whole thing came out in 1993 through Milestone Comics, basically acquired through DC. Dwayne McDuffie, Dennis Cohen's, all those types of people.
Rest in peace, Dwayne McDuffie.
Yes, and basically putting together such characters as Icon, Hardware, the Blood Syndicate, and Static Shock. You know what I'm saying? So what type of impact do we see if this creation gets made on film rather than how it started when it came out in comics? I'm sure that's going to come along as well. But for that to come out animated in comics, but for it to be a full feature movie, how big could this possibly be?
Well, I mean, like, I could speak from firsthand experience. When the Static Shock cartoon came up on the WB, I think it was, here in the United States, that was the only Black superhero on TV that I can remember that wasn't just like a quick cameo or anything like that. And just like, if you go back and you actually watch some of the stories, it was ahead of its time. It dealt with topics like racism. And a lot of times they talk about, like, you know, Black children, boys in particular, growing up without a father. We had a strong Black father, single father, taking care of his 2 kids after the passing of his wife. And then likewise, he was a police officer as well. So it's like he was a good role model, like, you know, at the time. Like, you know, things are a little crazy right now in terms of the police and things like that. But the main thing is representation matters. Seeing someone who looks like you on the TV, on the big screen, can have a huge impact when you're a younger person. It's not a stretch of the imagination for me to say that some of the heroes who turned me into who I am today never even existed. Both in terms of, like, you know, Static Shock, but also, Goku from Dragon Ball Z. Like, you know what I mean? So, and likewise, going back a little bit more recently, I think it was 2018, Black Panther. Think about the huge cultural phenomenon that was. Now, when it comes to Static Shock, in my opinion, it has just as much potential to impact the African American community as Black Panther and everything like that. But it really depends on how they go about it, especially with everything going on, like Black Lives Matter, defund the police, the fact that Static Shock's father is a police officer. They can go about that in some very interesting ways. And the fact that who they have producing it as behind it gives me a little bit of faith, but it could also go horribly south. Like, I don't want them to just like spoon feed us stuff that they think we want. It has to be an actual good story. So like I'm waiting to see who they get to write and direct it. I think that'll make a huge difference. That's going to be a huge key. They got the right producers, they got the right framework for it, and they have like a wealth of like potential. But execution's everything. And I think like writer, directors, and also who they cast, not for nothing, could play a huge impact on it. I know like a year or two ago, they were talking about Jaden Smith playing Static Shock. No disrespect to him, but I don't think that would have been a good.
No.
Like, no.
Well, I think too, it depends on, I think they have the right producers, so I think it's going to come out good. But it all depends on also, just because Reginald Hudlin wrote Static Shock, he's writing a new comic for him also. So you have a guy who wrote the comic, who knows the history of the character in that way, So I think that's a huge part of it. But I think an issue might be when it comes out, because now you have competition. You have Black Lightning on TV from the CW verse. It's a black superhero with electric powers. You got Electro, Jamie Foxx coming back in Spider-Man 3.
Man.
But regardless, it's another black person with electric powers. So remember, things can get a little muddled and confusing at times. Like 3 black people out here with electric powers. It may not be that big of a thing, but it's something else out there. You know what I mean?
To be fair, Electro is blue. And I feel like DC
he won't be in the second. He won't be in Spider-Man 3. They say.
Is that really what they're going to do? They're going to make him not blue.
Jamie Foxx said he's not going to be blue. Yep, he said he's not going to be blue. Electro ain't blue in the comics.
No, he's not blue in the comics.
But regardless, he's not blue. So why would he be blue? You know what I mean? He said he's not going to be blue this time. And also, you have a young hero in Static Shock, but you got Miles Morales. If Miles Morales drops a movie before Static Shock, does it take away from Static Shock's movie?
Damn. Right there, though. No one says like if Guardians of the Galaxy with like a white protagonist comes out before Captain America, that is he going to steal the thunder from the other white actors? Like I don't believe that.
But you know what they do say though? Captain Marvel.
That's what they'll do.
But listen, Captain Marvel had the same type of power base as who are they talking about? Who was it? Damn, just slipped my mind. But that's why they changed some things in her movie, because the way she looks. Was it Rogue? Nah, it's somebody who had a movie out. But the way she powers up, it looks like from the Infinity Stone and all that kind of stuff. You got to separate.
Who was it?
It
wasn't Wonder Woman, was it? Or
was it not? It wasn't. I don't think it was Wonder Woman.
I don't know which one you're talking about.
Was it even Thor? But it's just like when Thor powered up in his last movie. It's that similar way the power looks. So you want to get away from it looking like another hero. You know what I mean? So it's things like that. It's a young black hero. Power set is different. We get that, but
power set is different. Backstory is different.
But they love Miles Morales. People know about Miles Morales, I think, a little stronger than they know about Static Shock.
Yeah, but people can learn to love Static Shock, and make no mistake. Static Shock, like the cartoon series, wasn't necessarily a minor TV show. It was, really successful. It got like 4 or 5 seasons.
It was a big show.
It was a big show for its time, especially a show with a black lead character, cartoon character. You know what I mean? So when it comes out, as long as they got the right team and the right marketing, I have no doubt that it'd be successful. It could come out the same year as a Miles Morales movie. and it'll still be successful. You think that black people are going to be tired? Oh, we already had a black movie earlier this year. Like, nah, nigga, like we're going to eat them both though. As long as they don't come out like the same month, like, and to the point that they're direct competition. I don't think that's going to be an issue.
This is what studios do. You're not going to put out a movie that's similar to another movie in the same month, maybe in the same year. You don't want to take away from your sales. Remember,
they're not similar. They have two completely different backstories with two completely different sets of characters. The only thing is that they're both black superheroes in the city. That's it. Like they could be two radically different movies.
Remember, this is something we have never seen before. Two young black heroes in a movie. They're headlining their own movies. It's a first, but I'm telling you, things like this, it's important to play it right if you're going to do it.
You know what'll suck though. You know what'll really suck.
What?
Between the rivalry of Marvel and DC, they might do it. They might fucking pair them against each other.
Listen, didn't DC look? They scooped Marvel with Aquaman for them not to do Submariner first.
Yeah,
because Marvel scooped from DC time and time again. Time and time again, Marvel has just taken that first shot and pulled it out before DC has had the chance to pull the plug. You know what I mean? It's like this is what competition does. You want your movie to outsell the competition. They got the Avengers out before Justice League, made them look dumb with that. You know what I mean? It's what happens. I would love to see them come out in different years. So there's no question about this and all of this. Yeah. And we don't even have this conversation. Come out in different years.
I don't care if they come out in the same year or different years. If both movies are dope, both movies are dope.
Right.
It is what it is.
I'm going to go see both.
As long as they're not literally a month apart from each other, I think that might be kind of tight for two blockbusters. But like if they are like, a little bit like, 2 or 3 months apart from each other, that's really all you need. And trust me, I get it. Like, Hollywood is white. Like, I'm just being real with you. For the most part, Hollywood is pretty damn white. But that doesn't mean that two black-led films, superhero films, can't be successful in the same year. And I think that if the producers believe in their product, that will take it like, miles ahead. Like, look at Joker. They were really, really, really apprehensive about releasing a rated R standalone Joker movie outside the DCU. And it ended up being one of their biggest, most financially profitable movies they released in a decade. You know what I mean? They look at the success of Black Panther, and then they see like, oh, we got the right people to produce it. If we can get the right directors, we can have some of that pie too. So like I said, I don't think it'd be an issue. I don't think we're going to get a Miles movie anytime before Static Shock or even the same year. Like
I see that as a stretch of time.
Yeah, like if they fast track Static Shock, not even fast track, if they just go about it at a normal rate, we'll probably have casting, writers, and directors sometime next year, and we might even start filming as soon as the end of next year, early the year after that. I don't think we're going to get a Miles Morales movie even in production for like 3 years. So I think the hypothetical of them two coming out in the same year is slim to none. Now, there is a rumor that Miles Morales might be in the third Spider-Man movie, which I would
There's
never
a rumor that they already have the actor picked.
Yeah, and like there's an audition tape that leaked that a lot of people are thinking that it's Miles Morales. And the reason people think it's real is because whenever someone posted it online, it immediately got taken down by copyright strike. So like, you know, when something like that happens, you put one and one together. So like there's a chance we might get Miles Morales as soon as like next year, or like if it doesn't get pushed back the year after that into the next Spider-Man movie. So that I would believe. But I aside from Into the Spider-Verse 2, I don't think we're going to get a standalone Miles Morales movie in a live action setting anytime in the next 3 years. Whereas I think there's 100% chance, well, not 100% chance, like Hollywood's fickle, but like, you know, assuming things don't just completely fall apart, it's very likely that if they start working on it now, it's going to be released at some point in the next 3 years. You know what I mean?
Let's expand on it, because if you take in Static Shock, Miles Morales, Ultimate Spider-Man, and even a character like Harley Quinn, all these characters are basically pretty new. If you want to put in Harley Quinn being created around like 1992, Static Shock being created in 1993, Miles Morales being created around 2011. is it a way for us to get away from not to necessarily like pull the plug on a lot of this, but to get away from those characters that were adapted in the 30s all the way to the 60s that we pretty much normally run to as far as like running up the gauntlet of the movies that are being made.
And at this point, I think that's where people get worried about superhero saturation, right? And
you want to grab the millennials.
Yeah, so by grabbing some of these newer heroes and telling more contemporary stories, not readapting stories that came out from like the 50s to the modern days, but readapting stories that came out in the last 20 to 30 years for like the more modern day. I just think it's a little bit more of a natural transition.
Right.
And it's fresh. Like, when they adapted what's a good like classic story that they adapted into like a comic book recently from like back in the day, like Infinity Wars is like an older story. I feel like that's a bad example.
Yeah, Infinity Gauntlet's from the 70s. Well,
yeah,
early 80s.
But people know that story for like, literally 30, 40 years. So when they adapted it, it's like, oh, I can't wait for this. Not everyone knows Morales' story, aside from maybe it's like basic backstory. Not everyone knows Static Shock beyond his basic backstory. Yeah. So when they tell a story like that, it feels fresh, it feels new, it feels exciting. And I think that gives directors a little bit more freedom because they're not shackled to the chains of the past. I think that can't be understated. Whenever you introduce a classic character who's been around for the last 50 or 60 years, you want to do honor by them, you want to do right by them. But if it's a little bit newer, it's like, there's been a few different renditions. We can kind of do our own thing with it while staying true to what the original creator wanted. So in that regard, I like this trend of newer heroes. I don't think we're ever going to get completely away from the Thors and the Spider-Man. No. And the X-Men are going to come back in a big way.
Right.
Like that's we all know that's just going to happen.
Absolutely.
But I think that sprinkling in some of the newer heroes like Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, they just casted her actress for the Marvel TV show. She-Hulk, and also like the slightly less popular heroes.
I was about to say, but
She-Hulk
did they? Because right now Marvel casting is kind of like flimsy at this point.
Flimsy? What you mean?
Because of the She-Hulk casting. You heard about that.
I mean, I thought that was a rumor that got disproven, and then we have no one to blame but ourselves.
It got disproven 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Like she took time to read it.
Yeah, but it's that Marvel's fault. If Marvel's not going to go out and disprove every single time a rumor isn't true, and they're not going to come out and confirm it every time a rumor is true until they're ready to do it. That's not Marvel's responsibility. If a leak happens and we believe it, that's on us. We can't blame Marvel for that. And we can't even blame the actress for that. Like, we're in the middle of COVID. We don't know what's going on in her personal life. You think we're supposed to, blame her for not discrediting this rumor, a little bit sooner?
Yes.
Like, no.
Yes.
Like,
she has a computer in her living room. She can look.
It's on the reputable sources that reported this as it was confirmed. That's Variety Magazine and all these other ones. It's on them for reporting and not fact-checking this
and to be fair, Variety has a pretty darn good track record. I think it's the they were wrong about in a couple of years. I give them a slight pass. You can't be right 100% of the time when it comes to rumors. These things happen, but the whole thing with leaning towards rumors and leaks is that you always have to take it with a grain of salt, unless you have hard video evidence or something like that. And even then, stuff can be faked. I as a video gamer in the fighting game community, there are a lot of rumors about, who's the next Super Smash Bros. Character going to be? Oh, there's a rumor Rambo might be in Mortal Kombat. Some of them end up being true, some of them end up not. It's fun to talk about. It's fun to speculate. But if it ends up not being true, you can't be mad at anyone but yourself. Because the person who reported it might have thought hey, this source has been right the last 9 times they told me something. Mm-hmm. They're saying they're 100% positive. Let me report on it because of their track record. But if they end up being wrong, it is what it is. If you want something to be official, you got to wait for it to be official. And that's all I have to say about that.
Do you think Michael B. Jordan should be in the Static Shock movie?
Maybe he could be the dad. Maybe he could be the cop. Is he too young? Is he too young to be Virgil's dad?
I mean, I'm not worried about age-wise. He doesn't look like he'd be somebody's dad. That's that old.
True.
Is he could be age-wise, but he don't look the age to be of somebody that's a teenager.
I mean, I will say this. When I think of Static Shock's dad, who would be a good actor to play Static Shock's dad? I wouldn't say Michael B. Jordan. Honestly, he's a great actor. Maybe another character in Static Shock or a cameo of sorts.
Yeah,
Rubber Band Man.
Yeah, Rubber Band Man. Well, a lot of the villains in Static Shock, not for nothing, are other teenagers who are hit in the Big Bang.
Yeah.
So like that's another cool thing. It's like, superhero teenagers fighting super villain teenagers who are at the wrong place at the wrong time, or just
there's no big name villains here. You got Heavy C and all these motherfucking teenagers and everything like that. But more so because of the gap and the time frame in which Static was originated. Does it allow for Static Shock to have that just as much cultural impact, not necessarily dollars, as much as Black Panther?
So the thing with Black Panther is that it had a lot, like if you look at Wakanda, they took a huge amount of inspiration from African roots. Like, even like, the language in certain scenes, like, Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, fought to have a different language for like, certain Wakanda scenes and things like that in Civil War and also in Black Panther. So I think that in terms of cultural impact with Black Panther, we didn't just see a Black superhero film. We saw a Black superhero film with African culture in it. With Static Shock, it doesn't take place in an African country. It takes place in like a Detroit type city. So I think it'd be more so about seeing someone who looks like you and I as a Black person who might be living in a city, seeing a superhero in your own environment. So I think that it might have a different type of impact. As I don't want to like compare like, oh, Black Panther was like did better for the Black community than Static Shock. Like, all this
done right. Not saying that at all.
Yeah, but like but I think that this has to it shouldn't try to be Black Panther 2. Static Shock is not Black Panther.
No,
but you just have
the aesthetic of Black Panther is what made that great. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. The aesthetic of Wakanda, the fact that it was in a connected universe, and it was a place of Afrofuturism that a lot of people just did not see. Right. That's the connection that people had with Wakanda, T'Challa, Black Panther, the going back to Africa movement, any of that. Static is right here, home base, African American, Detroit slum type shit. That's that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You're talking about it's different when you're talking about kings.
Yeah.
Being a king is a whole nother level. You're not a ruler. You're not a magistrate. You're a king of a country. You running things. That's a whole different ball game right there. And that set him on another level. Like, you got to respect that. You got to show respect for that.
But like Static Shock, though, I can see myself more in a way. I can see myself in Static Shock and Miles Morales, not for nothing, a little bit more than the Black Panther, simply because of, once again, like the status thing. Like, Static Shock could be my homie down the street when I was younger. But like, I'm not necessarily running into contact of, Black Panther kings and royalty. But it's also on the flip side of that, important to see that Black people can be kings and royalty and do great things as well. I think they complement each other in that regard. You know what I mean? Like both sides of the same coin. And there's a lot of potential to be had. And Michael B. Jordan producing it specifically, like, he's done a lot of really great movies. Like he was in Black Panther. He did Fruitvale Station. He did Creed. Like, he's done a lot of these, like, great.
He was in The Wire.
The Wire, exactly. So he's done a lot of, like, great Black led projects. And that gives him experience. And that if he brings that to Static Shock, can really take it to the next level. So, like, I'm looking forward to it. I've been saying for years, like, I've been going to do a Static Shock cosplay. I think now's the time to, like, solidify myself as the Static Shock.
It's time, bro.
Not for nothing.
Michael B. Jordan did post a picture on his social media account, but he used a picture of Static Shock like, in the comics.
It was Static Shock #1 with the Malcolm X hat.
Right.
Yeah.
So are you okay with seeing that version of Static, or do you want to see the cartoon version of Static Shock?
You know what? If they bring up that old one, the one from like the first comic, that was more of like a militant type looking Static Shock. I wouldn't be mad. I do like the regular costume though. The normal uniform that he wears. The original
costume.
I dig that. But if they went with issue #1, the Malcolm X hat, basically almost looking like a part of the movement. He would look like he would almost look like a stand-in a Black Lives Matter protest. That the allowance of dress and everything from the cover, and that would play in well, depending on the time period in which they want to conclude and having the movie start or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? But it could fit in well, and it could ruffle some feathers.
I mean, I don't want to ruffle feathers just for the sake of ruffling feathers. Like, this is the way I see it. If they're making a live action Static Shock movie, draw inspiration from the comics, be true to the original character and the story and everything like that, but don't be a slave to it. I don't want to be like, oh, it's going to be based off the comic or the TV show. Like, take the best bits of both, what works best in a live action setting, and tell a great gripping story for what it is. Like, if they base it more so off the comics than the TV show, even though obviously I grew up on the TV show, I'm more familiar with that, I wouldn't be mad as long as it's done right. And that's the main thing. If this movie sucks, I'm going to be so incredibly upset. But right now, everything's looking like, the dominoes are lining up in just the right way. It's a little too early to say 100% sure, but it's looking like it's going to be a good bet. Just like Michael B. Jordan alone, I was like, okay, yeah, you had my interest, now you have my full curiosity attention. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on it.
And like anything else, though, with costumes, does that costume from the cartoon play well? How is that going to look? You know what I mean? In a movie, does that look hokey-ish? But the comic book, that one, like you said, that fits, man. That's something you could see a young kid wearing and rocking out, like Miles with the Jordans on. You know what I mean?
I seen another adaptation from Kari Randolph. It was an older Miles Morales. He was about like 18 that he did for DC. And it looked cool as shit. And it was kind of like an update on the normal uniform that they have. And it was dope as hell, man. I would suggest anybody, if somebody wanted to look at an update of the uniform, look at Kari Randolph from DC's like adaptation of the Static Shock uniform. That shit was like a masterpiece. But Jerv, I'll ask you this because you probably know it from the comics. Would it help if they introduced other people from the Dakotaverse, if they introduced Icon, Hardware, any of those players into the fold?
If they're trying to do a shared universe, yes. If they're trying.
But if they wanted to boost up Static Shock in the movie, is just throwing them in to almost like kind of branch out Dwayne McDuffie's whole vision of getting that whole thing out there. Would that work? Would that help?
I mean, yeah. In that aspect, it definitely could help. But it just depends on, the shared universe is the thing to do now. So are we trying to do a shared universe for Miles here? You know what I mean? He was probably the best character to come out of Mile High Comics. So, it's what are we trying to do here is the main question. Now, I think shared universe, it's easy to throw things in there, and fans will love that. Fans love to see the crossovers. You know,
and the thing is, I know we don't have that much time, but the thing is to link the DC universe in with Static Shock didn't necessarily happen in the comics that often, because they didn't really get picked up by DC that quickly or anything like that.
But so there wasn't a series, but it happened in the animated series.
It did happen in the animated series. So the thing is, like, how could they introduce any of the characters from the DC universe into a Static Shock movie?
Same way they did with Shazam. You have a Batman toy here. A kid is wearing a Superman shirt. That automatically says it's part of this universe.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, when I watch, or if I read like a Captain America comic book, for example, I'm not thinking, oh man, when's Iron Man going to show up? It takes place in the shared universe, and that's good enough. Static Shock, even though he wasn't like day one a part of the DC universe, eventually he did team up with the Justice League and Batman, and
that's more than likely what they want.
Yeah,
that's more than likely what they want.
The easiest and best way to go about it, would probably just to mix it in with the general DCU. But I will say one thing: you guys called Static Shock Virgil Hawkins Miles like 3 times, and that's irking my soul.
Put some respect in my man's name.
Both of y'all.
Nah, Virgil.
We called him Miles.
Yeah, both of you. I like every time I say it's like I don't want to be rude and interrupt, but like put some respect in my nigga's name.
That's all, folks.
Well, he got a dumbass name at Virgil. Let's start with that. So.
Wow. You thinking of Ted
real rude.
DiBiase's Butler and shit?
Yeah, Butler.
Oh my God.
You wish you were as cool as Virgil Hawkins. Like,
Virgil.
sit down.
What kind of Virgil? You could have getting Virgil. Come on, man.
Disrespect.
I know he ain't pulling no cheeks with a name like Virgil. I know that.
You don't want to talk? Jerf, I hope your first grandchild's name is Virgil.
Oh, Virgil.
Never that. Never. And I will never call it Virgil if that's the case. Never be called Virgil. But let's wrap this up, fellas.
Yeah.
Yo, great to see everybody. Great topic. Let's hope this Static Shock movie comes out. Let's hope Virgil Hawkins kills it. Because we need another black superhero out here.
Yeah, it can't just be one. Don't give us one every fucking decade. That ain't even right. Some
like
bullshit.
Windu in Star Trek, right? I mean, Star Wars.
I guess we have Blade.
Yeah,
we have them.
Yeah, Blade set it off.
We had Blade in '98. We didn't get Black Panther until 2015, 14. In between that, we got Falcon. 16. He wasn't even a lead character.
Let's just have him do it right. Let's have him do it right. That's it.
All right, y'all.
But we out.
Party
nerds, we out.
Everybody's got a price. Everybody's gonna pay. 'Cause the $1 Million Man